Hi, I'm Martin Durant, Southpac Trucks. This is our 1971 Mike Lambert LW924. We bought this truck back in 2008 with the plan to restore it for the 2014 50 years of Kenworth in New Zealand. And here it is in all its glory. A lot of people put a lot of work into that. At the end of this little clip, have a look at all the people in the credits. But we stripped this truck right down to absolutely nothing. Right back to how a truck used to be put together. Took the engine out, fully rebuilt that cooling system. We pulled the transmission out, found we couldn't rebuild that, so we put a 14615 overdrive gearbox back into that, and it's around the corner shift pattern, which is a bit of fun. Stripped the cab right down to a million bits. Willie Malcolm and Rotorua put that all back together and got it all painted for us. And the work was mostly done between our Auckland branch and our Rotorua branch. The guys in Auckland stripped it, but then truck sales got real busy, and we shipped the whole lot down to Rotorua, and Chris Larkin and all the crew down there put a lot of effort into putting it back together. It used to be at one point a tandem drive with a lazy on the back, and there are some old photos of that when it was a truck with a big high-ab on it. The way it is now is pretty much how it was, and we put a lot of work into making it as authentic as we can. And got a lot of ideas and input from people. We also found some original number plates for this truck. It's still got the original plates, and we found some original photos. So we made sure that we put the chevron paintwork back on the front bumper. This is the original Mike Lambert colour, and although Mike Lambert as a company doesn't exist anymore because Mike retired, we made sure that we kept the branding on the truck as authentic as we could. So Southpac Trucks is done in the original font of Mike Lambert Limited. So when this truck first arrived in 1971, it was actually a CKD. It was semi-knockdown. It was imported by Dalhoff & King. We've actually got all the original files there on it. It had 5 warranty claims, nothing too significant. And it came out of Canada. And the engine was made in Great Britain. There's a reason for that. It meant there was less tariff on the truck. Trucks imported from the United States or other countries attracted more duty and more taxes. And Commonwealth trucks assembled in or manufactured in Canada with a British engine, the content was Commonwealth, so a lot less tax was paid. This engine is still original. It's probably done about 8 million miles. I met one of the previous owners, drivers, Ping Galleys in Auckland, operated the truck for many, many years. And when he drove it last, 25 years ago, at that point it had done 4 million miles, and it's still original. So after the guys in Auckland stripped the truck, Aaron Headington and his team packaged it all up, and we whipped it down to Rotorua. And the cab went straight to Willie Malcolm. Now, when we put this cab back together, we made sure we kept it authentic. When this truck was built, 1971, it did not have a door panel. We went through all the brochures and made sure that this thing looked exactly like it did when it was new. The colour of the upholstery is almost as it was. It's got that really stylish 70s trim on it as the truck was built. It had back then, a vinyl interior hood lining. We've even managed to get a retro push button stereo for it. Would you believe it? It's got Bluetooth AM FM, hands free. You couldn't get that back in 1971. We started with a new dash. We took all the panels out, and Paul McCurdy put me onto a guy in New Plymouth that is able to put this wood grain finish and float it onto aluminium. And then we cut the new holes, put new switches and all new Stewart Warner gauges in there. Matt Lamb found a guy to give the steering wheel a bit of a birthday and put it back to original. And wherever we could, we used parts that resembled the original parts. Like even this indicator is actually brand new. It's a TRP indicator, but it looks like a 1971 Kenworth indicator. Classic fan, boys put a genuine label on it. All the wiper systems are as original, Sprague, and they're all air controlled, air driven. So I talked about the gearbox earlier. The 12513 was really had its day in the sun. It couldn't really be rebuilt, and so we put an overdrive 15 speed on it to get the ratios as close as we could to original. Then Willie Malcolm put it all back together, put this interior trim into it, new wiring, new systems. We got the heaters working again and replaced as much as we could there, rebuilt the steering column, and then the guys loaded the cab back on the chassis. Huge amount of work went into sourcing all the parts for this truck. Kenworth have got a reputation to be able to supply parts going absolute decades, and Matt Lamb and Michael Just in Auckland put a lot of research into it, and we certainly had time, went through their lists, and over a period of 6 months gathered everything so we could put it together in a production-like way. Looking at the bonnet from the inside out, this is a gull wing. I quite like gull wings, and you can don't have to tilt the hood forward. You can just flap them up and you can get to everything. It's a really neat machine. The back suspension is 6-rod. It ain't comfortable when it's empty. It's pretty rough, and it kicks pretty hard on bridges as you whip across them, but you get used to it. It goes really well with a load on it. When we look at the back of the truck, we made that as original as we could. We rolled steel guards for it. Back in those days, the guards were made out of steel. There were no such thing as aluminium guards, and we put those through a roller. There's nothing light about them, but they're your typical logging spec guard, absolutely bulletproof. The back axles are Rockwell axles, which that same company became Meritor, but those are worm drive diffs, or SUDs. They're dropping from the top, and they're still original. They have done millions and millions of miles.